So we're activating one side of the brain
at a time.
Yep.
These ones flash too, right?
They do. I'm going to turn
maybe
them
the camera
on.
can see. Yeah.
When you think about this memory, how upsetting is it to you right now in this moment? On a scale of 0 to 10. For some kids, they're too little for that, and I'll just have them pick a face that they feel.
Hi, and welcome to another Family Care Learning podcast. My name is Haley Moritz, and I'm a child and family therapist and a family coach here at Christian Family Care. And I have Jenny here today.
Hi, my name is Jenny Delcourt, and I'm the clinical services supervisor. I'm also an EMDR certified child and family therapist, and I'm an EMDR consultant as well.
Yeah, so today we are talking about EMDR, which is a common approach to use in trauma therapy. So Jenny, you and I have been talking about this for a while now, just really wanting there to maybe be a better definition of what this type of, therapeutic approach is, and maybe just helping parents decide whether or not this is probably a good route to take. So, and you're the expert here. We have a couple of therapists here that are certified in EMDR. Not just every therapist can do this approach. So I think that's something really important for parents to be aware of and kind of just have a better understanding. And I've noticed that I feel like trauma is kind of a trending word right now. And so there's a lot of I feel like if you go online, if you see influencers on social media, or if you Google it, you see a lot of topics or articles about EMDR, but we just want to make sure that families really understand this a little bit more specifically if this is something that they are seeking out for their kiddos. So you're going to kind of explain to us what EMDR is, since you're certified in it and have used this approach for quite some time now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to give a little information and maybe pull back the curtain a little bit on this type of therapy, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions and a lot of ideas about EMDR that maybe aren't accurate. Yeah. And it's not this crazy shrouded in mystery kind of procedure. It definitely isn't. And as you mentioned, it's something that not every therapist does. The therapist has to get extensive training. Yeah. And receive consultation, and there's a process. There's a process to become trained in EMDR, and then even beyond that to become certified in EMDR. So it is something that not everyone does. But I would love to talk a little bit more about what EMDR stands for, the letters. Yeah. It's an acronym, and that acronym stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah, it is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. And in fact, it's a lot of times eye movement isn't even used anymore, but that's the way it was originally designed, was to use eye movement. You're using some of the brain's natural processes to digest memory and to make meaning of traumatic memory, because traumatic memory gets frozen in the nervous system, it gets frozen in the brain, and then that part of the brain that's holding that memory doesn't know that's in the past. That's not happening right now. So when that memory is activated or triggered, that's another key word you hear all the time is triggered or trigger. That person feels like that trauma is happening in the moment. And that kicks off all kinds of responses in the body and then in the nervous system and the fight or flight instinct that we talk about sometimes. That all gets activated with EMDR. The purpose is to desensitize that process, to help the brain understand that happened in the past, I'm safe now.
Right.
And to take away some of those feelings in the body that come up when someone thinks about the traumatic event, those feelings of lack of safety, or maybe it's the rapid heartbeat, or that feeling I have to run, or the fight instinct that takes place. Sometimes a lot of our kiddos have that aggression.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're actively reliving their trauma in their brain at a subconscious level. It's not something that they're able to verbalize, but that's what's happening on the brain level. And so we use this trauma therapy to take the fire out of that process.
Right.
And so the child or the adults, we work with adults too, can feel safe and not feel like they have to fight or flee in order to find safety.
Right. So as you're talking, I can imagine some parents are probably like close to tears of just being like, she is saying like everything that I see my child go through. And as a parent of kids who have come from traumatic past, I feel the same way, where I'm like, oh, when I can tell that somebody has this experience and they just seem like, even in that, small summary, you just touched so much on trauma and how a child carries it. And I think so many of our parents that are listening are probably really resonating with that, being like, yes, this is what I want for my child. You just said everything that we see in our home. We see their previous trauma resurfacing all the time. And I'm always trying to tell my kid, you're safe, you're loved, you're not in that situation anymore. So I'm sure it's understandable why people are so intrigued by EMDR and by this approach, because I do think it's kind of an aha. Yeah, that makes sense for why this would be helpful for my child. But can you talk about like what EMDR therapy looks like? Because it's awesome. Like EMDR is so cool, and I've been able to, kind of witness you in this, approach and other people, and it's amazing, but there's a lot of prep work and a lot of things that come with this approach that I think it would be helpful for parents to understand, because I think we get all excited and, oh my goodness, this could be an answer, to prayers for my kid, and it could be, it very likely could be, but
absolutely. Let's
talk about what it is specifically in a therapeutic setting and kind of the prep work that's going to come with that for parents specifically.
Yes, and I think it's a great point about, you mentioned prep work, because EMDR it's a phase model. It's actually an 8-phase model. And the preparation phase, where you're getting ready to process trauma, is the longest part of EMDR therapy. And it's the part that people don't necessarily relate to EMDR.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when you hear EMDR, you hear trauma. That's trauma processing. Process the trauma, right? But the longest part of EMDR therapy is actually that preparation. Yeah, because to go in, especially with children, but to go in, children who have had attachment trauma especially, to go in for a child like that and just start doing trauma processing, they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be prepared, and it can actually be very destabilizing, and it could cause more problems than it helps. They're not going to be able to actually process that trauma and have the relief that everyone wants them to have. So what we have to do as an EMDR therapist beforehand is I have to make sure that they're well prepared. And in order to make sure they're prepared, they have to have environmental stability. And relative environmental stability.
Sure.
So I know a lot of our kiddos that we see, they're in foster care, and so that's not exactly the definition of stability.
Right.
But some, you can definitely do a lot of good therapeutic work with long-term foster placements, even long-term group home placements. It just depends on the child and their particular circumstances.
Right.
But if they're actively moving placements or preparing to go into an adoptive placement, it's generally not the right time to start.
Not the best time for the trauma therapy.
Yeah. So we're not going to be doing any trauma processing in that time, but we can certainly be doing the preparation work even while they're actively moving. And that preparation work will help to stabilize them because they need that external environmental stability in placement, but they also need internal stability. And they need to have some internal resources so they can handle all of the big feelings that come up during EMDR processing, because it will cause a lot of big feelings, and they have to be able to tolerate those feelings and the memories that come up and all of those kinds of things. So we do a lot of work to prepare them and to prepare the family. Right? Yeah. So trauma therapy is it's no picnic.
Yeah.
And just be real honest, right?
Yeah.
When a child is doing trauma processing or an adult is doing trauma processing, it's good if the family is prepared for the big feelings that can come up. That child is going to continue having some really big emotions or big feelings. They might have other memories come up, things that they haven't thought about in a long time, for a couple of weeks after a trauma processing session. Yeah, and then afterwards, then things start to really calm down and go to a new baseline that is at a lower level of emotional reactivity.
Right.
But we got to get there.
Yeah, we got to get there.
Yeah, so parents have to be ready to provide a lot of nurturing caregiving. They have to be really attuned to their child and really be able to provide that compassionate support that kids need when they're going through trauma work.
Right. And I think that's a really good reminder for parents, because this is a really hopeful process, but a lot of times things do get a little bit more rocky before they get better, but that's part of the healing process. That's part of what we're doing, is we're really trying to help our kids navigate that trauma. And like you said, I love the prep work portion. I've gotten to work with you on the prep work. I'm not certified in EMDR, but I've been able to do the prep work process. And I think it's a really beautiful process. It can be really lengthy at times. And I think as a parent, you're kind of like, how long is this going to keep going? I'm really ready for us to get to the trauma. But that attachment piece or that felt safety piece is so crucial for our kids. And I think it's healing for us as a parent too, to even have that connection and, have the empathy and compassion come in as we anticipate and go through that next portion, that trauma portion. So, and I'm excited because you brought some examples of what it looks like in a therapy maybe session or environment when you're working with a kid. So kind of before we jump into that, can you kind of explain how a parent, they're listening to us talk about EMDR, what it's really designed for, knowing that there's going to be a prep work season, knowing that a lot of it is probably going to be parents having to maybe relearn different parenting strategies, maybe sit in a season where we're not even really dealing with the trauma. We're more talking about nurturing and connection and healthy correction and everything before we go into that. So if parents out there are listening saying, okay, I'm willing to do that, I'm willing to do anything to help my child, then maybe what's the next step? How would a parent know that EMDR would be right for their child moving forward?
Yeah. I think that for parents, I think what they can be looking for and looking at is number one is their commitment, is the parent's commitment. Are they really ready to put in that kind of time and effort? It does generally require weekly appointments. Yeah. And they're going to have to probably participate in therapy. They're going to be ready to structure some of their life. Some of their life might have to change a little bit, especially during this process, to provide that kind of safe space for their child while their child's going through this. And then looking at just the life cycle in the family and what they're going through in the family right now. Are you planning on moving in a couple of months? Are you do you have a lot of instability in the family right now? Is this child going to be changing placements or reunifying in a month or two? Right. Or even in 6 months, those kinds of things that you can take a look at. That, although I wouldn't say don't get EMDR therapy, but recognize that the preparation phase may be really, really long. I've worked with kids that, especially kids who are not in a permanent forever family at the moment. They're in foster care. They're in therapeutic foster care. We may be actually actively looking for an adoptive placement. But I'm just going to continue doing that prep work for a year or more until they have the stability that is needed. And really looking at what is the relationship like between me and my child for parents, that knowing that we're really going to have to build that relationship between parent and child. That attachment, that healthy, secure attachment really is the safe holding container for all of this trauma, and kids need that so desperately. So we do a lot of work to build that attachment so the child can have the safety and stability that they need. If parents are willing to do that work, if they can see that this is a good time in their life, this is a good time in their family's life, it's relatively stable. I know life is life, right? It's always going to be ups and downs in life. And that's okay. Therapy can ride out some of the ups and downs. But really understanding that when you're seeking out EMDR therapy, that this is probably not going to be a short-term easy fix. If you need a short-term easy fix for really rough behaviors, this isn't going to be it. It's just not. We may want to start it anyway while we get some other short-term fixes in place to help create that stability. But EMDR in and of itself is not going to give you a quick decrease in behaviors or a quick stability in your child. It's just not fast.
So, and I would like to hear your opinion on it too, but I think it would be kind of fair to say, if we're thinking, is an EMDR a good fit for my child, it really has to also be, is this something that as a parent I feel like I'm willing to sign up for myself and I'm willing to sit through? Even though, like you said, life is going to have maybe rockier seasons than others, I know that I have the support as a parent. I know I have the commitment and maybe even the actual time frame to devote to, maybe doing even some more parenting classes or doing some of my own counseling in addition or alongside my child, so that EMDR can maybe be more successful. And maybe this isn't a season for EMDR for some people, but that doesn't mean never, right? Maybe it's just later on, or maybe it is, for maybe even our foster parents, maybe it's, okay, you know what, I'm going to do the prep work season with the hope that if my child reunifies or maybe goes to a kinship or an adoptive home, then at another point I will have furthered them along to maybe they will be in a season where the trauma work will be something that they can do maybe sooner rather
Yeah.
than, later down the
definitely.
road. So I think even that's hopeful for some of our, maybe foster parents out there, is that you could be the person doing the prep work. You could be the person, showing a child that adults can meet their needs, adults can sit with them through these hardships. And you're changing that belief system in that little brain of theirs so that one day they could be ready for this. And
Absolutely.
that's a ministry in itself,
It
right?
is. And isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that's why I love the prep work. I love it so much.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just
and you're
warms my heart.
rewiring the child's brain to stability, to regulation,
Yes.
to be able to co-regulate with a parent.
Right.
That's part of the EMDR process with children with attachment trauma.
Yeah.
Is that we are creating those new neural pathways in the brain that bend towards safety,
Yeah.
that bend towards emotional regulation and
So good.
co-regulation with a parent, with a safe parent. And that is amazing work that's done in the preparation phase.
Right.
It is not just we just need to get past this so we can get to the trauma processing.
Right.
It's really a treatment in and of itself.
Right. Oh, that's so good. So we're not going to do an EMDR session by any means here today. That wouldn't really be probably the best idea. But you did bring some tools or maybe some resources or some ways that maybe we do incorporate it. So I'm going to let you kind of take it away with what you brought today to show us.
Sure, absolutely. So it helps to understand a little bit about how memory is stored, or how especially traumatic memory is stored. So it's stored in the brain as a thought or as a memory.
Sure.
The cognitive aspect of it, like I remember when this bad thing happened, and just with the words of the memory. And then it's also stored as an emotional reaction as the big emotions come up.
Right.
And then it's stored in the body as well. So that physical sensation for a lot of people, it's maybe their stomach hurts when they think about it, or they're getting headaches, or again, the heart racing and that fight or flight response. That's the traumatic memory stored in the body and in the nervous system. And then it's also stored through a negative belief about themselves that developed through this process of whatever this traumatic memory was that really influenced how they view the world.
Right.
And you see that so much in our kids who view the world as an unsafe place and who view grown-ups, and especially moms and dads, as mean, unsafe people, right? That's, that's from those negative beliefs about themselves that were developed through the traumatic experience that they had.
Yeah.
So EMDR really incorporates all of those aspects of memory, and that's why it's so powerful in really healing memory, even memory that is what we call pre-verbal or developmental trauma. When this happened before a child had words, when you think about the babies and the little ones, the toddlers, before they had a grasp on language, they still store memories. It's not that they don't remember what happened when they were little. That's sometimes we think that they just don't remember what happened, and that's not the case. They remember it with those feelings in their body. And their nervous system reaction and the emotions, and still that negative belief about themselves develops very, very early on, even when they don't have words for it.
Yes.
So we can still work with all of those aspects of memory, even for, for children or adults as well, who had maybe some traumatic things happen when they were babies and then went on to have a really good childhood. They still have the effects of the trauma, and we can still work with that trauma, even if they can't give you the details. They just know maybe it's, my biological mother died at childbirth, or there was this traumatic injury that occurred when I was 1 year old.
Or they were in the NICU
whatever.
for 2 months.
Oh, the NICU. Absolutely. That's a lot of trauma, all that medical trauma. We can work with that with the EMDR as well.
It could be a whole other podcast. I feel like just on the pre-verbal. I'm getting all excited about that.
Definitely. Yeah, medical trauma. I'd love to do. Actually, I'd love to do a podcast on medical trauma. Cut that out. Okay.
Love it.
Okay. So when we set up that memory, we kind of open up the memory. We kind of look at those aspects of memory to be able to open it up. And we do that with children. We do that specifically. We try to use, play or drawing. Art. We're using expressive ways because we know children don't tend to respond very well to talk therapy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They do better with expressive methods like play or art, sand tray. I did bring some of my sand tray figures here. Yep. And so we'll have kids kind of open up that memory, maybe recreating the memory through artwork or through little figures here. So, have all the main players of the traumatic memory.
Right.
Here, this guy's going to fall now, huh?
Or you want me to hold him?
There you go. You want to hold the bad guy?
Yeah, hold the bad guy.
Hold the perpetrator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be the scary person that this resembles.
And so maybe they set up the memory however they remember it. It honestly doesn't matter if that was exactly objectively how it happened. It's how the child perceived it.
Right.
Because that's what's traumatic, is the perception of whatever it is. And we help children to identify, well, what's that negative belief? Sometimes that's work with the parents. I'll talk with the parents about some of their child's negative beliefs, and there's really common ones that kids develop, like I can't be safe, I can't trust people, I'm not good enough, or I'm bad, I'm broken. Those are very common ones that kids develop through this early trauma. I also have, for kids who are able to, I have my little blocks here.
Yes, I love the blocks. I've seen you use those before.
Yes.
So helpful.
Yeah, for kids. So when I'm activating them, opening up that memory, I'm helping them identify too, what are those negative beliefs? When you look at that picture, what's the belief about yourself? What are the negative words that go with that picture? And these are obviously for children who are old enough to read, and for adults. I use these for adults as well. And it's kind of like a menu of things. And I always ask, what's the one that you feel like, oh, that's like the emotional punch.
Yes.
When you hear those words, thinking about this picture. And so we just kind of go through these and see which ones are the ones that are appropriate. We talk about, I'll ask, what is the emotion that's coming up for you? And I'll have them.
While you look for that, I love the blocks or like the menus, because I think for a lot of our kids, they have never been able to articulate the feeling. It just sits there. And so I think sometimes, like Dan Siegel's, name it to tame it. I think this is a beautiful way to do that for a lot of our kids too.
Yeah.
So that's really
definitely.
cool.
Definitely. Yeah. It just brings, again, light.
Yep.
And we verbalize the things that they don't have words for,
Right.
and help, especially with kids, because they just don't have sometimes the emotional vocabulary and the depth of experience necessary to have that level of insight. They're kids.
Right. Yeah.
Developmentally, they just wouldn't have that level of insight.
Yeah. And like I said, adults can't even do that sometimes. So to have that expectation for kids, it's like, as an adult, I should probably look at that for how I'm feeling today.
I absolutely use these with my adult clients.
Yeah,
in fact, I use a lot of my child tools and my play therapy.
Adults or teenagers.
I do with
good
adults
stuff.
and teens. Yeah, it helps too. But we identify those emotions that are attached to this memory, and I have them even rate it. And I use this little chart that I use to rate. So it's how upsetting is this memory? When you think about this memory, how upsetting is it to you right now in this moment? On a scale of 0 to 10. For some kids, they're too little for that, and I'll just have them pick a face that they feel. If they're older, or for adults, they can name like how upsetting it is on that 10-point scale. And then we go into the actual processing of the memory, and that part we use something to do with the eye movement that it talked about in the name of EMDR. We don't always use eye movement anymore. The idea is you've got the both halves or hemispheres of the brain being activated, and that's what the eye movement is doing, and it's also kind of creating a little bit of a diverted attention.
Yes.
So you're not focusing 100% on this really traumatic memory, but you're able to kind of stay a little bit here with me in the room, and that's what the eye movement allows. But especially for kids, I don't always use eye movement.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do. So I definitely do sometimes. But for a lot of people, and especially children, it's easier to use other forms. And one of the things that I use are my Buzzies.
Yes, the Buzzies.
The Buzzies.
Which I get a hold, right?
You do.
Yay.
So I'm gonna show
It's been a while since I've seen these. Yeah.
And they vibrate.
Yeah.
And it's just a gentle vibration, and it goes one at a time. So we're activating one side of the brain
At a time.
At a time. Yep.
These ones flash too, right?
They do. I'm going to turn
maybe
them
the camera
on.
can see. Yeah.
And I can make them go slower. For some things, we like to go slow. And for others, we go faster. And you can see it. With the lights, it's going faster.
Yeah. And I've seen you, Jenny, too, for some kids, if maybe even holding them in their hands seems intimidating, you let them put them like in their socks or, maybe in a pocket if they're wearing jeans or something. So there's a lot of creative ways that we can or not
Yes.
me, you can utilize this. And
Oh,
or
yeah.
I've even seen some kids go, faster,
Yeah.
or slower. So
Yeah, they get to choose sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's fun. Sometimes they'll hold the Buzzies on the hands of a teddy bear or on the hands of a
Yes,
doll.
yep.
And so they're helping the doll think about their, think about their traumas and feel better.
Yeah.
But they're feeling the buzzing too at the same time. So
Yeah.
it works that way too. But we try to use creative ways. You can never say that trauma therapy is fun.
Right.
That's not a thing.
Probably should
right?
clarify that. Even though this looks fun and the toys look fun, it's hard work.
Yeah, it is hard work
Yeah.
and it's unpleasant. And a lot of times parents will say that their kids will go home saying, I don't really like going to see Miss Jenny.
Right. Yeah.
Because, well, yeah.
I have yucky feelings after therapy today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll always say, like, I'm no one's favorite day of the week.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
That's okay because this is really, really hard work. We just try to make it as pleasant as possible for kids.
Right.
And it's really important that we go their pace and that we're able to kind of titrate the therapy for the child. So we give them a little bit at a time, what they can tolerate at a time.
Yes.
And so sometimes the EMDR part of it, the kind of therapeutic part of the session is going to be 5 minutes long.
Yep.
It's going to be very, very short because that's what they can tolerate. And then the
Yeah.
rest of the time is going to look like just play. But we're letting their brain work
Yep.
and we're helping to regulate their brain, regulate their bodies again so they can go back out into the world and feel okay.
Yes.
And not just have these open big wounds that we've opened up in therapy.
Yeah, it was
so I think
so
that's something too that parents should know is sometimes the EMDR part is very, very short. And it's like, what would you did something for 2 minutes and then you just played. That's not therapy.
Yeah.
It is therapy.
It is therapy.
Especially for children. Yeah, for adults, they can go a whole full hour of EMDR. Sometimes we schedule hour and a half
Right.
sessions for adults for EMDR, but for a child, it's just very, very different.
Yeah.
And they need a lot of time to connect with their caregiver and experience those moments of shared joy with
Right.
their caregiver to stabilize again after even a few minutes of EMDR.
Yeah.
So we do a little bit of healing at a time. So yes, it's very slow.
Yeah.
But it's what kids can tolerate. And that
Exactly.
helps them keep coming back.
Right.
And helps continue that healing process for
work.
the brain. Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point to kind of, because my last question is how can we encourage parents to support, their children? But I think you said something that I think really resonates with me as a parent because I've also have kids that are like, I don't want to go to therapy today because my kids are in therapy and they, it is kind of hard. And I think as a parent, you can be like, well, we're going, we've had a rough week, we are going to therapy, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm guilty of that at times too. So I think even what you said is really helpful for our parents that we got to change that mind set a little
Yes.
bit and validate for our kids that therapy is hard work. That doesn't mean that
Yes.
there might not be sessions. Some sessions might be easier than others, maybe not with the trauma work, maybe
Yeah.
with like the attachment work, but validating that for our kids too and empowering them.
Yeah.
Good job using your words. It is hard. It is hard. Therapy is hard
hard.
sometimes. So,
Yeah.
you know what? Let me tell Miss Jenny that you had a really hard time afterwards. Or I wonder if maybe we had a more crummy week because we did some hard work. But such good work. I'm so proud of you and what you did in therapy this week. So even that is kind of more of that validating. But I think for parents, that's the support. That's not
Yes.
natural for us
No.
a lot of times because we want to be like, we got to go back to therapy. We had a rough week. But really a lot of this is, again, what we talked about at the beginning of this is we are sitting with our kids. We are acknowledging ahead of time before doing any trauma work that things are going to get yucky for a while and that we have to be in the space ourselves that we are willing to sit in that yuckiness and do that prep work with our kids. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that, but there's other ways that we can support our kids too in this process.
I love absolutely everything you said. And really making sure that parents aren't treating therapy as like a consequence for behavior.
Yes.
So you had a rough week. You have to go tell Miss Jenny about your rough week or really wait till we tell the therapist what you did this week. And that really inhibits the therapy process.
Yes.
When kids start to see it as a consequence for bad behavior. So I think that's really helpful if they can kind of avoid combining behavior with needing to go see the therapist. That's helpful. And just even in having a positive attitude themselves about therapy, because boy, therapy is not easy for parents either.
No, it's not.
No, it is not easy for parents.
Yeah.
But if they can show they have a really good, hopeful attitude, I think that's part of it too, is if they can hold hope for this child.
Yeah.
Be the one that holds hope that I know this process is long. it can be years long sometimes.
Yeah.
I won't sugarcoat that. It can be years long.
Yeah.
But I have hope that in the end of this process, we're going to have healing and wholeness.
Yeah.
And that's such an important attitude to have for parents, just that I'm going to hold the flicker of hope for this family during this process. And then I think even just in therapy, really letting the therapist do the work. Parents don't have to be the one to do the work. Parents want to be proactive, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's goodness that comes from that.
Oh, yes, definitely. And I have these parents who are so involved in their kids' lives, and ultimately that engagement in their child's life, that is what's going to bring about healing.
Right.
That really is so important. But during, especially the EMDR process, if I can have my parents just kind of be quiet, and just stand witness to this process and provide just a loving presence.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to speak. There may be times that they want to correct what a child says or add more information that maybe the child didn't know. That's generally not helpful in the moment of processing. I will definitely have my parents provide information when it's needed.
Right.
And I'll ask them. I'll ask them. And did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or what is the loving statement you would want to say to the child during this time, or whatever the question is. If I think that the child is missing some information, or if the child needs support or needs some compassion or empathy in that moment from a loving caregiver, I will ask for it. And then it's a perfect time for a parent to provide that. But if parents can wait until I ask, that's going to help the process go much faster. Yes. Yeah, that's really important if parents can just wait until. And then definitely I can talk to them beforehand. I can talk to them after the session if they need to kind of like set the record straight. And sometimes it's helpful to know.
Yeah.
So that didn't really happen.
Yeah.
That wasn't really what happened in the child's story or whatever. Then it is helpful for me to know, but just not in the moment. Yes. Yeah. Let me know about that afterwards or in an email.
Yes, exactly.
And if parents can kind of keep track of just the patterns in how kids respond after EMDR, that helps me too. If they want to just shoot me an email that says, hey, I just want to let you know, right after this session, she did great. We had a great night. And then the next day, rough.
That's okay.
It was terrible. Super triggered all day long.
Yeah.
I love to know that. I love to know those patterns, or I love to know, boy, she just had nightmares all night that night. Those are the things I love to know, especially in an email, not in front of the child. And that helps me understand where their brain is at and where the work is going, and if I need to do more preparation or if I need to do something else to help make it a little bit of a smoother process.
Right.
So parents can provide that information, because I don't know what's happening at home. I only see them in my office.
Yeah, for an hour a week probably.
Right?
Yeah.
And I see they're okay when they leave my room. They're okay.
Right.
But I don't know what's really happening in the week. So that can be really helpful too. I think, if parents can really partner with their therapist, it's so helpful.
Yeah.
And parents can ask, what can I do? Is there anything specific that you want me to do this week to help this child, to support the therapy process, to support this child's healing? I love it when a parent asks me that.
Yeah. That's so good.
Oh, it is. It is. I know we're going to have a good
Yeah.
We're going to have a good treatment.
Yeah.
A good treatment when you have parents who want to know, what can I do to help support this child?
Yeah.
And I will give you everything I got.
All the stuff. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we have to have a second podcast to this, because I do feel like it's such a good topic. And again, I feel like lately I've been seeing, like I said, just a lot of people I don't even necessarily know, but like on social media, just going on and on about EMDR. And I think it's just really helpful, especially for our parents working with our traumatized kiddos, that we just have a good, clear understanding of what this is, and that absolutely it is successful. There is a reason why it is really popular right now and people are seeking out this type of approach, but that there are some things that you need to know ahead of time. So if you're listening today and you're like, I want more information about EMDR or even Christian Family Care or Arizona Family Counseling, our counseling department, I would encourage you to go to our website. Or Jenny, if there's even some resources that you would recommend today to say, hey, instead of going on Google, looking at this, maybe check out this book, or maybe check out this TED Talk, or whatever it would be for our parents to maybe learn a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I think there's some good resources for EMDR. There's a lot of good resources, and then there's a lot of misinformation out there. I always recommend, if you're just looking for information about EMDR, to either ask your child's therapist or ask your own therapist. Certainly, if they know anything about EMDR, if they're trained in EMDR, they'll be able to hopefully help you in the right direction. And then also, if you go to the EMDR International Association, And that is at Emdria, EMDRIA.
Okay.
You can Google that. And on their website, they have a lot of really good, solid information about EMDR. And they have a place that you can even look for an EMDR certified therapist as well if you're looking to get EMDR for yourself or for your child. And certainly, give us a call. We have several EMDR trained therapists here on staff. And we would be happy to help your child and help you and your family. And we see adults as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Jenny, for walking us through this, and hopefully we can come back and talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.